Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HP Podcast, episode number 318. I'm Ben, and with me here today are the two most beautiful boys on this podcast. Brandon, hello.
What's up, Ben?
How are you?
Good, man. Good. Yeah, I'm good. A little sleepy today.
Did you take a nap and just wake up right before the show?
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured. I could tell.
But aside from that, I'm all right.
Cool. Dave, how are you doing?
I had a weird thing happen at work today.
So did I. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go first. So I was sitting at a cubicle. I don't really work on campus very often, so I just have like a hoteling station. But my boss was in his office, which is like right beside the cubicle. And to be fair, it was the lunch hour, and I was getting some things ready for the HP podcast. So I had the HP podcast Google Doc open on my computer, and some idiot has put pictures in there, and then I farted at my desk, and then my boss walked over to my desk like 10 seconds after I let out a greasy fart. And yeah, I know it smelled. And then on top of that, I had the HP podcast doc open on my computer. Luckily, I wasn't scrolled down all the way, but I was scrolled down enough where you could just see the top of that Sony guy's head.
Mark Cerny.
Mark Cerny, yeah. You know the really weird picture of Mark Cerny where he's got a weird look on his face? That's in our doc for some reason. There's another more lewd picture further down. Luckily, I hadn't scrolled down that far. But yeah, it was really weird. But he kind of hung out, and we had like a 10-minute conversation. So that tells me that he didn't see the funny picture in the doc, nor did the fart scare him away. So
I was gonna say,
I
he
thought it
probably
was
noticed the fart, but it maybe didn't bother him as much as it could have.
maybe. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm happy with the smell of my farts, but I just it's the kind of thing that happens to people. You know, you think you're safe, so you let it out,
Yeah.
and then things change, and it's. You know, I just hope my boss is understanding that sometimes people got to fart, and sometimes you pick the right places to do it, and sometimes you pick the wrong places to do it.
He's like, Dave, you're in the office once a week, and here you are farting, looking at weird pictures.
More like once a month.
Once a month, okay.
Yeah.
So I also had a similar but different weird thing happen. No, it wasn't similar at all, actually. Normally on my computer I play with keyboard and mouse, but on Friday Monster Hunter came out, and so I plugged in my old DualSense to the computer and played Monster Hunter, not thinking anything of it. I put it under the desk when I'm not using it, sitting on top of my tower, and it just sits there. And then when I'm ready to use it, I pull it out and use it again. Well, all of my meetings are over like Google meetings, and people are always remarking at like, "Wow, Ben, you have like, why do you have that expensive microphone? And your sound quality is great." And I didn't have any meetings on video yesterday, I don't think. And then today I had like 6-7 meetings all in a row, and maybe more like 5. Anyway, I get to the last meeting of the day, and by the way, I've still got like a weird cold going on. I've been sniffling, chewing cough drops. The train's going by. There was, for some reason, like 7 ambulances today. Normally, when I use this microphone, I just hardware mute like this. And then I can say, I can make whatever sounds I need to, and you just don't hear it. Well, I didn't realize that Google Meetings had switched my microphone to my DualSense microphone. So all day people are just here. Like if I have to sneeze, I'm like, I'll close my camera, mute my microphone, and just sneeze away, cough, hack up, whatever I got to do. Today I did not do that because I was not using the correct microphone input. And so I got to the last meeting of the day and realized it because I like sniffed and saw my like face light up. And I was like, hey guys, I need to apologize. All day today, anybody who's been in the meeting with me has heard this, and this. And I explained the reasons why. And they were like, oh, it just added some fun color to the conversation. I was like, why did none of you people tell me that I sounded like garbage, number one, and number two, that I was like chewing or sneezing during meetings? They were like, it was fine. I was like, okay, but I wouldn't think it was fine if you were doing it. That's how I felt about it. Anyway,
That's pretty
don't plug your DualSense in and have meetings for work is what I'm trying to say.
It always defaults. My Xbox controller, does it just not have that functionality? Because
It doesn't have a microphone.
okay, that makes a lot more sense because every program I ever, Discord or whatever, it always wants to use the mic on the controller for the Sony.
I should have thought about that because on Friday, I think you were there, Brandon, when I hopped into the Discord, It was on my DualSense and I had to change it, even though I didn't even have Discord open when I plugged in the DualSense the first time.
Right.
But
and sometimes Discord will ask you too, and then sometimes it just switches it automatically, and I'm like,
yeah. But yeah, like everybody all day today just heard me sneezing and sniffling 100 times. I was just like, guys, you could have just said something. Like, I don't, like, I've been there a month now. I don't do that regularly.
right.
So, yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But you
It is
didn't
what
get
it is,
fired
man.
for poor audio. Not yet, anyway.
Well, not yet. No, not yet.
It must not have been that offensive, truly. Either that or you're working with, like, the people you work with have had way worse. Like, just smacking lips in the chat or, like, chewing loudly mid conversation or something.
I mean, fortunately, most of my meetings are like pretty small groups. So, like, 3 of my meetings today, it was just me and 2 other people. And, I'm only like sneezing when I'm not the one talking.
Right.
So I'm sure, but I did notice one thing in a later meeting in the day. I like hardware muted and didn't turn off my camera because I didn't have time and I sneezed. And I was on camera, and one of my coworkers was like, "Oh, bless you," and I unmuted my mic, and I was like, oh, "Thank you, appreciate it." I didn't realize at the time it was not only because they could see me; it was because they could hear me.
They could hear you as well. Yeah. Wow.
Which, hey, everybody sneezed. I'm not like I don't think it's not like I farted into the dual. Maybe I did. Who knows? Maybe I did let one rip and thought I was muted. I don't know, but I don't think I did.
You weren't.
But I know I
spanking it or
sneezed,
anything.
coughed, chewed cough drops. Like, I feel like that would be
Guys, can you hold on a second?
They're
that
like,
would be firing worthy. Probably.
they're like, Ben, who's clapping? Oh, sorry, the kids just finished a movie in the other room. They do that.
Yeah.
Ben, did
Yeah.
you just
When the
spill
movie's done.
mayo somewhere?
Derek says Ben almost fired for using a PlayStation controller. Xbox company for sure. Well, I was not almost fired that I know of. And second of all, Steam company, really. Like, all of our games are on Steam, but not a whole lot are on other platforms yet, or other consoles or anything. Earlier on, I wanted to point out Edward Walton said, "This is now a second monitor podcast while I play Monster Hunter." Now, Edward's here every week. We appreciate Edward. Loyal person in the Discord, patron of ours. We appreciate you, Edward. But did we get demoted? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, before, were we like I'll listen to this later, and now we're a second monitor podcast?
I'll take
Or did we
it,
get
dude.
demoted from the front screen, from the homepage?
I'll take it, dude. To Monster Hunter, I'll
Hunter,
take it.
yeah.
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 It's worth it.
And Radek, for some reason, as normal, comes in and asks Dave a question about Canada that does not pertain to the show at all. Would like to know if you saw LCBOs are removing American liquor now. Dave, did you notice?
Yeah, that was not the most important thing that happened today, but yes, Radek, I am aware that I'm an Ontario craft beer guy, so I don't care. But yeah, I am aware. They've been threatening this for a while, but hopefully they actually do it now. Because yeah.
Okay. Radek has also commented and said that getting demoted from primary to secondary monitor is better than being a 1.5 speed podcast.
True.
I agree with you, and I'm appreciative that all of you are here live, but I want to let you know there are so many more people who download this show than who tune in live that I'm positive it's because they want the 1.5 or 2 speed.
And
Or
that's
they're
okay.
just not available. But other than that, it's because they want it faster. They're like, this show's an hour, not long enough. Or too long, I mean.
I want it to be 45 minutes. The Fabled Short Show. Those people have the Fabled Short Show every show.
That's true.
So their short shows must be like 20 minutes.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to also have this show only be 20 minutes, and for some reason also want to give us money, you can do so at patreon.com/handsomephantom. You can sign up there for as little as $1 a month. We're really not asking for much. Okay? Just putting that out there. It's $1 a month. 4.2 shows on average a month. We appreciate everybody for helping us keep the lights on. You can also join us at Discord, on Discord at handsomephantom.com/Discord. You can hang out with us and just shoot the shit in Discord with a bunch of other people. Dave, I have not looked at the comments in a minute, but you're laughing.
Our Discord there's a funny picture in there. So if you're not on Discord, you should
There's a
go.
funny picture in our Discord.
Yeah.
Okay. I do see that. Okay. Benji says, I'm trying to listen at 1.5 speed right now, and it keeps buffering. Benji says, I'm trying to listen at 1.5 speed now, and it keeps buffering. I just wanted to get the whole effect there.
Right. Your job used to be removing pauses from podcast, wasn't it, Ben?
That's a bit reductive, but yeah.
Yeah.
I did that
was
as part of
that
my
was
job one
an
time.
accountability of yours once, a small one, but
Correct.
yeah.
Dude, Radek's got a good suggestion. Maybe we could have a fourth sheet. We could just put Subway Surfers or like Angry Birds
Or like
something
people
that.
sifting through sand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a fourth guest.
Yeah.
Sometimes we could kick it over to Kinetic Sand, see what they think.
Radek, if you want a job being our fourth chair / producer, we don't pay. You'll never be able to speak or be on camera, but you can run Subway Surfers if you'd like. You must be here every week. And also, you're not really hired. I made that up. Let's talk about some video games, boys. Number one. And Dave, thanks for putting together the notes today. They both can. Well, that's not true. Dave contributes pretty frequently, but today I needed him to do it all. I almost gave Brandon credit there, and I couldn't allow that to happen.
Don't lie about me.
I couldn't besmirch Dave's good name. Metro.co.uk says Steam Deck has barely outsold the Engage as sales cast doubt on Xbox handheld plans. New data has revealed sales figures for PC gaming's handhelds across the board, which even collectively haven't surpassed Sony's failed PS Vita. In the conversation, which first of all, the Vita may not have sold as much as they wanted it to, but the Vita was being sold by a major national corporation. And it could have done better if they hadn't abandoned it. Okay. In the conversation around gaming handhelds, people usually highlight the Nintendo Switch, and the Steam Deck is the big success stories in the market today. The success of the Switch is undisputed, with the console having surpassed 150 million units sold, trailing only the DS and the PS2 as the best-selling console ever. Valve, meanwhile, has always been vague about sales for the Steam Deck, claiming it had sold multiple millions back in November of 23. But now a new report has shed light on exactly how much of the market the Steam Deck and other PC gaming handhelds occupy, and it's a mere drop in the ocean in comparison. According to data from market research firm IDC, which uses supply chains to estimate how many handheld gaming systems have shipped worldwide, PC gaming handhelds, namely the Steam Deck, Asus ROG Ally, Lenovo Legion Go, and MSI Claw, have collectively shipped just under 6 million units since 2022. Steam Deck makes up the lion's share of this, with upwards of 3.7 million units shipped in the 3 years since it launched in February of 2022. Now, these are only estimates, and they have crossed the 4 million mark by this point. I don't need to go too much more into depth here. I want to hear what your guys' reactions are to this, and then I'll provide my own as well. Dave, why don't you kick it off for us?
So I think it's important to keep in mind that Valve is a small company. It's not an indie company by any stretch of the imagination, but considering the impact that it has on the industry we love so dearly,
by definition, it is indie.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. So, but I mean, you think of how often we talk about Steam and Valve and how much we use Steam on a daily basis for gaming, and it's impressive to see a company this small make as much waves as it does. So I think keeping in mind that it's a small company, this is a successful piece of hardware for them. And looking at like the PC handheld market, Steam Deck is kind of the king. It's dominating that. But I think what this goes to show is that either this market is still in its infancy or it's a niche market. I'm not really sure which one it is, but when I look at the way that Valve has treated the Steam Deck, Asus and Lenovo as, you know, I guess their closest competitors have kind of treated their hardware in the market, it seems like they're treating it as a niche market as well, because I don't see a whole lot of promotion when it comes to these things. There is investment there, but when I don't see a lot of promotion and, you know, I suspect that the supply is just there to maintain, you know, the hardcore demand. I don't know what this market is really going to evolve into, but at the moment, it just kind of looks like this is what it is, and it's kind of a complement to what we already have with, you know, our gaming PCs. So there's been a lot of rumors about Microsoft entering this market and maybe even Sony re-entering the market with a native piece of hardware. Again, not talking about streaming, but native, you know, a successor to the Vita. I just don't see it happening. I think the Steam Deck can continue to do well for Valve. And I think we might see iterations on that, but I'm not really convinced that this is going to reemerge as like a dominant market. Nintendo is going to do its thing. It's always going to be good at that. But as far as, you know, seeing Microsoft come in and have their new handheld, maybe they'll do it, but I don't really see it being a success. So, yeah, Steam Deck is what it is. And I personally think this is a niche market, and it will be that way forever.
Brendan, what do you think?
I think things like the Vita and the PSP, more specifically, I guess is what I'm talking about, were around at a point in time when it made a lot more sense for some of the bigger title games that sell really well, that attract people in to buy something like that. even though there has been a rise in popularity with these handhelds, I still think that the market is still kind of new. Um, I would almost loosely compare it to the VR market, where it's like a subgenre of gaming that's not quite as popular. Not to say there isn't potential, but I feel like the potential is yet to be tapped, really. So, once we get a big competitor out there, I don't necessarily disagree with Dave that having a big IP brand, having a big name brand like Sony or Microsoft step into this field wouldn't change things up a little bit. But I'm thinking, for instance, you get some sort of PlayStation successor that can natively play PlayStation 4 and maybe, PS5 games to an extent. And I see that being interesting to people, and not just the Portal, because that even sold better than Sony thought it would, if I'm remembering the report correctly. So I definitely think there's interest. I don't think this is really like telling the whole story. I think as a hardware, this is kind of like a market that was there a while ago, has went away, and is trying to come back, but hasn't really gained its footing or its audience yet. So I don't know. I think this is interesting. I could be interested in a handheld, but nothing has really, grabbed me quite yet. I think the Steam Deck is cool, but it's kind of situational for me. So I don't know. Maybe I'd bite if Sony put something out, but hard to say, man. And like, I don't know if Xbox should like. They're getting kind of out of the hardware market, it seems. So that's kind of something too, where it's like, is there talks of putting out an Xbox handheld? Yeah, sure. I mean, probably there's been talks, but at the same rate, it's like with the way their business model has landed in the past couple of years and continues to push forward, does it really make sense for them? I'm not so sure. So
I think you're right, Brandon. It's about 2 million PlayStation Portals they estimate have been sold, which is a pretty good attach rate when you consider that's like 4% of all PS5 owners, and that's
Right.
not even native, right? That's just streaming. So,
right.
but as far as the Steam Deck goes, I don't know, man. I think first of all, PC gamers are more likely to be at their PC when they're playing games, obviously, uh, and not play games elsewhere. That's kind of what I was meaning there. The Steam Deck is interesting because it's a great device that can either, if you have Wi-Fi of some sort, you can stream all your games that you have downloaded on your PC to the device, or you can run them natively. Either way, and for people who don't have a computer that can hack it for some games, they may be able to use the Steam Deck. Even, you may have to implement some different settings, but you can play games on your Steam Deck that you can't play on your PC. If, for instance, if you're Dave, not to point Dave out, but Dave, you've talked a lot about publicly about how you just don't have a gaming PC. Like, you can play some games on it. It's not a gaming PC necessarily. But a Steam Deck, maybe if you were somewhere that you could play the games and weren't always at your computer, might be a good option for somebody like you. It could definitely run certain games that your computer can't. But I think the other thing is that this thing may have only sold 4 million copies, and I say only loosely, but like, it's a pretty niche device. It can only be bought on Steam's website. It cannot be bought in stores, and that alone separates it, in my opinion. The other thing that's different about the Steam Deck is that I don't really think that the Steam Deck was created and sold in order to sell Steam Decks, to sell hardware. It was created to, one, allow people to play the games and be in the ecosystem that they're already in more. And two, there are definitely games that I would have never bought if I hadn't been, I was like, man, that'd be awesome on Steam Deck. Let me just go ahead and buy it. And I wouldn't have bought that on PC because it's like, I don't want to like sit on my PC and play that kind of game. So it's definitely added some value to them. Now, is it ever going to be a breakout thing? I don't know. Handheld gaming, obviously. I mean, look at the DS, one of the best selling, or it is the best selling console of all time, or system of all time. So like, obviously handheld gaming is huge. But I think as more and more people get into the PC gaming ecosystem, you'll see specifically these kinds of things get bigger and bigger. It does make me wonder how some of the other ones like the I can't say the name of them, the Rogue Ally and the Legion,
And the Claw.
the Claw. It makes me wonder if it's worth the R&D for them to be selling them, because once they make that sale, the real appeal to those is that you can play stuff anywhere. You can on Steam's too, but that's a different story. But like, for instance, I know the Legion, it's like, or I'm sorry, the Rogue Ally they have a really big emphasis on being able to play Game Pass games on it, streaming, but you can play Game Pass games on it. And it's like, well, where's the payoff for Asus after they make that hardware sale? There really isn't any.
Yeah.
It's, it's kind of like the Steam Deck's kind of like a console for PlayStation. Like maybe PlayStation barely makes any money on their PS5s, but you're going to buy extra controllers, you're going to buy games, and that attach rate and the peripherals and everything, that's huge. Whereas Valve, it's like the average person, obviously lots of people, hack or homebrew or whatever their Steam Decks to be able to play other stuff. But the average person is going to pick up a Steam Deck and either play games they already own from Steam or buy games directly from Steam. I know some people who have a Steam Deck that have never had a Steam account before. So they're selling or they're utilizing their system or getting you more into the ecosystem. So anyway, my whole point was I don't think 4 million is a slouchy number when you consider where it's sold and how niche it really is. But will it ever become a huge thing? Will it ever take over like, consoles do? Probably not.
Well, and you bring up a good point, Ben. Steam Deck's being able to buy into that ecosystem, that makes it more favorable for a company like Sony, for a company like Xbox, because really we've talked many times about how the money's in the software, and the money seems to be in the Game Pass for the Game Pass in the software for Microsoft. So I'm not saying they're going to want to take a loss on this, but what I'm saying is that unlike the ROG, like you were saying, or the MSI, it's like they're also buying into the software portion of it, and they're not trying to make the most money on the hardware, which I think ultimately benefits the people making it in that case, and the people buying it, because they're not trying to make money off the hardware. They're trying to make a good piece of hardware to sell you software, and I think that's kind of the difference there.
Yeah. Anything else on this story?
Glad
Let's
we
talk about-
referenced the N-Gage, though. It's been too
Yeah.
long.
Right. RIP. Next story. Rockstar buys Grand Theft Auto the Trilogy, the Definitive Edition developer, and renames it Rockstar Australia. This is from IGN. It's just talking about how they have purchased the developer that made the Definitive Edition of the Trilogy, and that they've worked with them in the past on re-releases of LA Noire, and that they're bringing the trilogy elsewhere. An important point is this is not Grove Street Games, which did a really poor job on porting those games originally or remaking those games. This is a different company. But I kind of wanted to talk about this story in order to talk about what they might do with them. Obviously, we know Rockstar's games are huge. We know Rockstar itself is huge. We know that many, 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 many different people across the globe are all working on. I can't talk with Brandon's hand in my face. It's like he's strangling me. It's like he's reaching out trying to strangle me. I think his mic's muted too. Sorry, I got derailed.
I'm sorry, dude. I had to get a hoodie. I was cold, and then I sat up so I didn't look like I was slouching. My fault.
What do you think Rockstar might do with this developer? Or what would you like them to do with this developer? Because obviously they have some experience working on ports. What else is there that Rockstar may port? Brandon, would you like to kick it off?
Yeah, let's see Vice City, dude. Right?
Yeah, I love Vice City.
Let's see an updated Vice City, man. That was one of my favorites. I think this is just good to have in their back pocket, period. I think this is maybe like slightly akin to like Blue Point and Sony. I think having a studio that does have experience taking older games and updating them in any sort of way or porting them in any way is a really valuable resource, especially when theoretically the development cost of such things is usually exponentially lower than new development. So, what do I think they're going to do with them? I mean, I would love to say that they would use them in a different capacity because I want new things, but that doesn't seem like that's probably the case here. So, I don't know. Maybe they should put them on like active development of the trilogy itself to continue to fix what was fucked up with it in the first place. I know they've done some updates, and it took a long time for that to happen. I remember seeing a reporting of that sometime last year that they did a big patch and fixed some stuff, but I still think that should have been a handcrafted thing either way. So I don't know. Not like they're going to make right on it now. I don't really know that that makes a lot of sense, but it would be good for the consumers. So,
Dave, what about you? What do you think here?
Yeah, well, first I just want to echo what Brandon said about game development has become so expensive. So I think we could probably see more of this, where the larger companies that have extensive back catalogs could buy up smaller companies to actually remaster, because I mean that's a solid revenue stream. There's always nostalgia there. I'm thinking about companies like Capcom, who just have years and years of games that they could choose from to remaster, and they will always sell. In terms of what I want to see, Bully is a game I've never played, but I know that game has a pretty strong following. So I think it would be cool to see a proper remake of that, and considering the history that Rockstar has with now Rockstar Australia, it'd be cool to see them be given a bit of a better shot at making something big for them. And I think a Bully remake would be cool. As far as remasters go, I think a low risk but cool thing to see would be a remaster of the original GTA games. Not talking about Grand Theft Auto 3, but the one, the top down isometric ones. I think they have an interesting place in history, and I don't want to say they get forgotten, but it's something that it's cool to see what GTA was before GTA 3 when it really exploded. And I think those games would do really well on mobile. I don't know if they're already there, but a proper remaster I think would definitely help get some eyes on them. So there's so much that Rockstar could do, and the thing about Rockstar is their development cycles are just so long now that it would be cool to see kind of a constant stream of stuff from them that maybe isn't a new Red Dead game or a new Grand Theft Auto game. So yeah.
dude, speaking of, do we have any Red Dead Revolver fans? When are we going to see that make?
That's actually what I was going to bring up was Red Dead Revolver. It's not nearly as good as Redemption and 2, but it's got to be brought forward for the experience alone. I was also thinking about Manhunt. You guys remember Manhunt?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I never played it, but
I don't know. I'm trying to remember. I don't know if we could get away with it today in the audiences, but if I remember correctly, it was fun, if nothing else. Remember the Wii edition of Manhunt 2? You literally had to pretend to strangle people with the cords between the nunchuck and the
Dude, that's amazing. And honestly, I don't know why they wouldn't be able to get away with it. You know how much violence is in video games?
You're right.
I know it's a strange premise, but there's games like Mortal Kombat and you rip people's spines out. I don't I don't know.
The only other one I was thinking of was, I don't think they made this game. I think they just published it. But on my N64 box copy of Earthworm Jim 3D, there's a Rockstar logo. I think they just published it. Bring that back too, just for fun.
Bring it back, dude. Bring it back.
But the obvious answer, sorry, it's I can't let this go. Benji said it in chat, GTA 5 to Switch. It's just, how has it not happened yet?
That's true. Yeah. That's true. They just put out the next gen version update on Steam, I'm pretty sure, or on PC, so it's about time. I'm pretty sure that what's his name? McNamara. I'm trying to find his name. Brendan McNamara used to be somehow involved with Rockstar. and now he's going to be involved with them again. But I don't know. I can't remember what it was, but there was some controversy about him years ago. But I don't care enough to recall it. So hopefully it's all good from here on out, right?
We'll see, man.
Radix says the old head GTAs y'all grew up on. I don't think I ever played a GTA till 3.
Yeah,
I mean, I went back and like experienced a browser clone of the first one years later, but
I really don't have a desire to play anything before 3. I mean, they're just not the same type of game that I'm interested in. And not to say that they're bad and that they aren't like don't have a place in the entire series, but
they're not GTA.
Yeah, if someone, I'm just thinking about Gen Z like having played GTA 5 and then being like, "Oh my god, the first 2 are getting remade. I'm going to check them out." And then being nothing but completely disappointed.
Yeah.
Just like imagine booting that up and being like, "What the fuck is this?" Like
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. PSVR 2. This comes from the official PlayStation blog, and it says, for those of you who've been waiting for the opportunity to jump into PSVR 2 and experience what this generation's innovative virtual reality system has to offer, we're happy to share some great news. Starting in March, we're reducing the recommended retail price of PSVR 2. Here are the new prices. For the VR2, which includes the headset, the Sense controllers, and stereo headphones, which they're just the little dinky AirPods, or earpods, $399.99 USD. If you go down to the Call of the Mountain bundle, it includes PlayStation Store voucher code for Call of the Mountain, VR2 headset, controller, and those headphones, also for $399.99. So really, if you don't get the bundle with that game for free, why not? You're just
You
an idiot.
really, really hate Guerrilla Games. There's an
You're like,
option
I
for
do
it.
not want to add one single solitary number to their sales count. Apparently, the Horizon game is pretty good for a showcase title for the new VR system. But I want to know what you guys think. I know that neither of you are like super into VR, but Dave, you were toying around with VR when you were talking about Gran Turismo. Is $100 price drop enough to get you to bite?
No, it's not. Yeah, we were just talking about this last week about how, for me, anyways, there's one big compelling reason why I might enjoy VR, but I'm not convinced I wouldn't get a headache after 20 minutes. So, I don't know, but I think this is a good move by Sony because it aligns it with its biggest competition, which is MetaQuest. And I don't want to say they should have done this from the start because Sony wants to bet on itself. It's always been kind of a premium company when it comes to hardware, but I think this is probably more in line where they need to be from this point going forward. Now, what I hope this doesn't mean, and Ben, when we talked about our first story, you mentioned the Vita, which I'm afraid this is what's going to happen, where this is Sony abandoning VR finally. I always kind of felt like the VR2 was going to be their last kick at this. Nobody else has really entered the market. So we haven't really seen much VR in their last, couple opportunities to do so, which are the state of plays. So I kind of think this is them saying, we just need to move this inventory. So hopefully this is going to be kind of something to get people to buy it. So
you don't think this is just a 2 years after release price drop?
Yeah, really. I don't know. I'd like to see that, and I don't know. I don't think that it's a lot like the PC portable part that we were talking about, where that's a niche market that I think can maintain for a long time. VR, on the other hand, is something that I think is shrinking. So, unfortunately, I don't think this is good news for VR. But yeah, I mean, if you've been waiting, now's a good chance to buy one.
I think there's some rumors circulating about new Valve VR hardware, but I can't remember where I saw it, so it might not have been real.
When's the last time you picked up your headset, Ben? You've got a couple, don't you? Or do you just have one?
I have the VR1, the PSVR1, which I haven't touched in literally years. My my Meta Quest 2 I picked up under 6 weeks ago. Brandon,
Would you play?
Power Wash Simulator.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this just kind of signals to me like a let's get it off the shelf type of thing. I think this is something that is normal for this point in its life cycle, especially for something that, by Sony's account, underperformed. I think that this is a very natural thing for a product to do as time goes on, and is the best way to continue to get people to buy your software, like I was talking about earlier. So, especially now with the added enhancement of being able to buy a separate box to use it with things other than PlayStation, I think this is a good thing for them. I think now that you're able to use non-Sony product with this headset, and it's gotten a price drop, this will very much entice people to come back to the product, which by all means wasn't a bad product. I used it and I thought it was a fine product. I just am not really that into VR. And I tend to agree with Dave. I think that VR is an awesome medium, but I think that it has a lot of limitations as far as cost to experience to, the technology we have. I think it's really great, but I just don't think it's as commercially accepted or societally accepted as it could be in the next 5 to 10 years if it ends up sticking around. So, yeah, I think this is great. I think this is wonderful, and people that didn't buy in should buy in now. Would highly recommend getting the equipment to not just play it with your PlayStation. Because correct me if I'm wrong, boys. So let's say you see this price drop, right? And you don't have a PlayStation at all. With that box that you could buy separately, if you had a gaming PC, you could exclusively use it for that, correct?
Yeah. It doesn't work one-to-one. It doesn't work like some of the features don't work.
Sure.
Correctly. Yeah.
Sure.
But yeah, you don't have to have a PlayStation to use it if you don't want to.
And that's what I'm saying. So yeah, I think the added benefit, if someone had the will, had the PS5, had the PC, this is a no-brainer to get it at this point, because I would imagine that it will not be dropped again, if I had to guess, unless it goes on some sort of Black Friday sale. But as far as Sony coming out and saying, hey, this is the recommended price, I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't happen again until the consoles either stop being made, or the hardware stops being made, or there's a new successor out. I think this is kind of where it's going to lay. And it seems like a good price. It seems like a fair price for what you're getting here.
Yeah, I don't think this is a desperate cry to get these off the shelves. Like I said, it's 2 years into the life cycle. I'm surprised we haven't seen a price drop earlier than this, and I wouldn't have been alarmed. Let alone with how poorly we know it sold at the beginning. Obviously, we haven't gotten a PS5 price drop, but that's probably because it's costing more to manufacture PS5s now than it did when they launched. So they probably needed to make up that money. But it's interesting. I don't have any urgency or indication that I'll ever play my PSVR 1 again. But I know that in order to do so with my PS5, and I have a lot of games for VR, in order to do so with my PS5, I need to have the adapter that they gave out for free. And I have that adapter. I ordered it. I got it. But I don't know where it is. And now, even though I have absolutely no desire to go back and play my PSVR 1, I'm kind of like panicking in my head of where is that adapter?
Yeah, you're gonna have to end up buying one off eBay or something.
It's just gonna sit on the shelf.
Yeah, right.
I don't need it, but I want to know where that adapter is because I know I didn't put it with my VR set.
Right.
I know I didn't. I just it's probably still in the envelope it came in, quite honestly.
Yeah, I just don't understand why you need an adapter. That's also what I don't understand. Like, what did it use to originally go into the PS4? Is it just USB?
I had a conversion box into USB. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, it's just another dickhead way for them to like make you use their shit when it could probably very easily just be USB. But anyway,
it was USB. It's just
But I'm saying it shouldn't be that difficult. is what I'm saying.
I don't think you need that adapter to play it necessarily. I think that's for the USB-C slot. So I agree. It shouldn't be that difficult, but it is. So, did they ever port Astro to PSVR 2? No, but I believe it's playable. I might be wrong about that.
I just
I don't
gotta
know, but they
add
should.
something to this because I do throw around the idea of getting this thing because I think it's cool, and I there are some things I genuinely want to try, GT7 aside, but I think about where Sony is as a company strategically and the things that have happened since they launched this thing. I just don't have faith that they're going to support it. So since they launched PSVR 2, they've had major changes in leadership and they've lost a ton of money in games as a service. So where are you going to save money? I think your niche experiments are where the company is going to look to kind of divulge themselves. And I can't really, and I look at the moves they've made where, now this isn't something that's going to be kind of exclusive to PlayStation, but you can use other software on it. So that tells me that we're not going to see Horizon-esque software coming out for the PSVR 2. And the thing is when I buy something Sony, a Sony piece of hardware, I'm buying it for Sony software because they're so good at that. So to me, like, what's the point if nothing new and cool is coming? So I don't know. Sorry, I just wanted to add that in because I think it's kind of important to illustrate where my head is at with this thing and why.
Ed Cassidy said, yeah, I agree with you, Dave. Ed Cassidy says the PS4 camera is a little fatter USB port on the back of the PS4, so you do need the adapter to get PSVR 1 on PS5. So now I'm even more panicked, even though I don't need it. I don't need to do it right now, but I'm like, where's my adapter? I need to know. The other thing is, do you think that in 20 years we'll be like, how we look at Power Gloves from the NES right now? We're like, man, that was so cool. Do you think then we'll be like, man, the VRs were so cool. I wish I had had one.
Probably. Yeah,
so. It would be more like the Virtua Boy, I think.
Okay, that's fair enough. No, nothing's cool about the Virtual Boy still.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. That's okay. That's
that
fair.
melted your eyes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, every time I go to like a gaming convention and they have like a hall set up where you can play different games, there's always Virtual Boys there. And I'm like, I don't really want to put my face in that. Even if it's totally been cleaned, it looks like it's going to eat me.
You had to smush your face in so hard just to see it at the correct angle. Otherwise, everything was distorted. Yeah, not fun.
So it's going to be more like Rob the Robot from NES.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you ever used one of those?
I think I have.
I had either a friend or relative when I was a kid, like during the actual NES generation, that had one. And I remember always wanting to play with it. And he was always like, nah, it sucks. I'm like, oh, I'm 4 years old. I want to play with it. It's a robot.
Yeah.
From Screen Rant. Oh, here, let me change the banner. Screen Rant says, Avowed, the latest RPG from Obsidian Entertainment, has taken the gaming world by storm, reaching an impressive 5.9 million players in its first month. This milestone places it ahead of Indiana Jones, which generated only 4 million players in the same time frame. The numbers highlight Avowed's strong traction, making it one of Xbox's biggest recent successes. According to PK Insight, Mind Game data estimations show that nearly 5.9 million players have taken on the world within Avowed since its launch. While these are just estimations, they do give us a good idea of how well Avowed is doing, even with negative reviews and hot takes running rampant. So nearly 6 million players in the first month. That's, of course, including Game Pass users, people who purchased the game on Xbox or PC or Steam. I think it was on Steam. I could be wrong about that. Oh no, it is Steam as well, etc. Boys, do you think these numbers mean anything? And I'm not picking on Avowed. I'm actually, as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, playing Avowed and I'm enjoying it. But do you think these numbers mean anything when they include Game Pass?
No, generally, no. I take them with a big grain of salt. But the reason why I think this is noteworthy is because of the comparison to Indiana Jones. That's interesting because Indiana Jones, a very established franchise, something that we don't get enough of in video games. And this has almost doubled it in terms of player base. Brand new IP. Yes, Avowed was kind of sought after because of Obsidian and maybe from Path of Exile a little bit. But this is very surprising, especially considering the critical reaction to Indiana Jones versus Avowed, which was good, but had a fair number of loud detractors. So I did not see this coming. Didn't have it on my bingo card.
Yeah.
And it, by all accounts, it seems like a decent game, but I did not see it shattering Indiana Jones like this.
Yeah, agreed. And Indy was good. I really enjoyed playing Indy. I really, really liked that game. Brandon, any thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing getting estimates with Game Pass, in my opinion, simply because, I booted up Indiana Jones and looked at the title screen and then didn't play it. Did I count?
Probably, yes.
So, like, I'm
You
not saying
didn't actually count for their metrics, but you did count for their numbers.
So what I'm saying is that, like, I don't want to poo-poo these numbers, but I think it is important that even if a game is mostly bought on Xbox and mostly bought on Game Pass, to look at the Steam charts as a bit of an estimation. And I think if the Steam charts have anything to do with it, this is kind of echoing what this article is saying. All-time peak for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle on Steam is 8,200. An all-time peak for Avowed.
I see 12,000, by the way.
12,000? What
In
chart
this
are you
article.
using? On Steam?
Yeah.
That's not what Steam chart says.
Oh.
And Avowed says 19K. All-time peak. So even by those metrics on Steam charts, we're still seeing a large bump on Avowed over Indiana Jones, which I guess is pretty telling. But my question when it comes to Game Pass is, are most people willing to just try it out on Game Pass? Is that more beneficial for these companies than these people buying it outright on Steam? Because I feel like the numbers are significantly lower, even by those standards. So I guess it's a win to get people into the ecosystem, into the subscription, but I don't know. It's always a debate whether just purchasing it outright is a larger monetary benefit to the developers and the people making it or not. So, yeah, this is pretty huge, especially for a significantly, I'm assuming a significantly smaller studio than Machine.
I don't know.
Obsidian.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look that up. If you would just asked me without any prelude, I would have said they're about the same size, but I don't know that for sure.
Sorry, I got to address this. Derek, next week, in chat says other PoE. I said Path of Exile, Pillars of Eternity. My mistake.
Yes, you are correct, Derek.
Yeah, this is cool. I'm still not going to play either one of them, but
I think I want to play Avowed.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I had to choose, I would play Avowed.
I agree with that, but I think when I'm playing it, I think I'm just going to want to play Skyrim instead, and I'll just save myself some money.
It's funny because I might have mentioned this when I was talking about playing Avowed. I know the connections and I know you're holding things in two hands and all that kind of stuff too. I didn't really have any expectations for Avowed, and I've tuned out so many of the, console war rage baiters on Twitter and everywhere else that I don't even see this stuff anymore, like the arguments a lot of times. So I didn't even know that it was controversial going into it. But I wasn't expecting anything. I had no expectations other than that it was an RPG. And for me, I've been satisfied. Would I like to play Skyrim again? Yes, but that has nothing to do with Avowed. Like, it's not because of Avowed being good or bad. So I think if your expectation is this is supposed to be like Skyrim, it's not like Skyrim, then it probably sucks. But if your expectations are just play a game that's an RPG and you hold things with both hands, then you might have a fair shot at liking it.
Radek's asking me in chat if Xbox Game Pass is losing its aura. I'd say a bit, yeah. I mean, I was an Xbox Game Pass subscriber for most of last year, and I have had next to no motivation to repurchase it. So,
yeah, but I mean, in fairness, you barely used it last year, and you barely played games this year, right? You've said a couple times I just haven't had motivation to play anything.
Yeah, I mean, Played a fair amount of games.
It's funny
Definitely
because
not Xbox games.
yeah, I've never been like disenfranchised with Game Pass. It was just a point where I was like, I'm currently not playing anything on this right now, so I'm gonna let my subscription lapse. And then that turned into 6 months of that, and now I just bump in when I feel like it. But yeah, my issue with Game Pass, says Edward Walton, is finding the motivation to open the app
Yes, because you know there's an update waiting for you. Or does
on
it?
Jesus, man.
on Xbox.
Yeah.
Oh, people shit on the PC version of the app all the time, and for like 3 years, I was subscribed constantly and used it like almost every day, and never had a single problem with it. But
Do you know if I turn on my Series S, I'm playing Halo, and that's about it.
yeah,
It just really is. So yeah, I know the feeling, Edward. I do.
there was something else I was going to bring up here about Avowed, but I don't remember what it was. So we'll move on. This is going to go directly into our what you've been playing section. But let's talk about the new Monster Hunter Wilds sales records. A little bit different than Avowed here. Capcom announced today that the worldwide sales of Monster Hunter Wilds, released on February 28th, that's 3 days ago, 4 days ago now, surpassed 8 million units in 3 days, which is the fastest a title has reached this milestone in the company's history. I don't have a lot to talk about here, but before we actually talk about the game and playing it, this is an incredible number, first of all, for Capcom in general. Second of all, for Monster Hunter. Boys, we all three have it. We all three bought it. What do you think? Why is this Monster Hunter being met with such ferocious speed, as this press release puts it? Dave.
We don't get Monster Hunter games very often, and I think Rise was good, but it left a lot of people wanting. It was moved to consoles and PC outside of Switch, but it was still very clearly a game made for Switch. So I think a proper successor to Monster Hunter World, which launched the franchise into the stratosphere, was what people really wanted. So keeping in mind that was half a decade ago. No, World came out pre-COVID, so a long time ago.
2017 or 18, I think. Yeah.
Damn, girl. Yeah. So it's just people have been waiting for this, and it's here, and it's selling well, and it's selling as it should. And Monster Hunter used to be a niche IP, and it isn't anymore. It definitely is not. So good for Capcom. They always put out quality product, and they always support quality product long term. The reason why it was a no-brainer for me to pay full price for this game day one is because I know this game is going to be supported for several years. And we're seeing less and less of that in the industry. So the value is just unreal there. So yeah, good for Capcom and good for gamers.
Brandon, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Dave. I think that it does have something to do with momentum for even a game like Worlds building over the years. I often went on Twitch and saw big streamers playing Worlds years later, and I think that does have something to do with the continued support and the just massive amount of replayability and content that game brought. I think that the idea of Monster Hunter after Worlds really grew. Even with a game like Rise, even though it wasn't exactly the same, AAA big cinematic masterpiece, it was more akin to some of the DS titles. I think that also continued to build interest in the franchise, and people were just waiting for something like this to come along again. This might be a bit of a stretch, but I feel like the normie player has also really grabbed onto the idea of the third person melee combat / third person action game has really become popular. Since 2017 or 18, games like Elden Ring have really popularized. Not to say that this is like a From like game. This is not a Souls like game, but I think that even this type of game, this type of combat has really kind of skyrocketed in popularity. And every other game is a third person, rolly, shooty, stabby game. anymore. So yeah, I just think it's a combination of all of that and just a franchise kind of reaching momentum after years and years and years of quality games. I'm talking about it with people at work that I never would have guessed that just play GTA and Madden and some racing games here and there, and they were talking to me about Monster Hunter. So yeah, it's definitely breaking new ground, and I think it's merited. There's some good and some bad, and we'll get into that. But overall, the product kind of speaks for itself, and I think this is a home run for Capcom.
That's a really good point, Brandon, about the rise of, no pun intended, but the rise of games in that style. I mean, it's not exactly like that, but it does have a lot of similarities.
Right.
Anyway. So with that said, we've all three been playing Monster Hunter. I think that's the only thing any of us have on our list here. At least that's new to I played a little bit of Rivals last week and stuff like that, but nothing that's new on the agenda. So why don't we kick it off? Dave, you start us off. Take us any direction you want. We can all just chime in here too.
Sure. I think Brandon's probably played the most of us, so I'll leave some room for him. But it's more Monster Hunter. I love it. It's great. I'm gonna look forward to playing this for most of the year. I guess I'll quickly start with the things that I don't like, because I think they're worth pointing out, but they're not ruining the experience for me. I think the process of grouping up and playing with friends online is slightly less comfortable than falling down some stairs. It actually makes Elden Ring's co-op process look like Call of Duty. I don't know if they've made it worse, but it feels worse than World. We spent about an hour and a half on Friday trying to figure it out, and it took multiple people, many forums and looking up things online. So I don't know why this needs to be so complicated, and I get that like it has something to do with people experiencing the story, so you have to get to a certain point in the story, but then even then, if you're watching a cutscene, you can't be in a group, so then you have to send another invite after. It's just stupid, and it's just. I think maybe they tried to solve it with this environmental link thing, but anyways, once you figure it out,
well, there's a party link. Then that doesn't mean you're in the same place. Then there's an environment link, and then there's also some other thing I can't remember. You can post. It's weird. And then there's also like the world you load into can be only full of people in your server, in your guild or whatever, and creates a server. I don't love it. It's not the worst it could possibly be. The worst it could possibly be is non-existing, and it's just one tick above that.
Yeah. I'm kind of just looking forward to spending the majority of the time playing co-op in endgame. Because you don't, like, again, without the story, you don't have to worry about as much as this. But yeah, sorry, Brandon, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I think that's part of the problem. It's definitely a convoluted system. I actually will give it some credit having figured it out a little bit. The party link system, I understand the idea they're going with, right? So it's essentially like you're grouped up with your friends, but you're not grouped up with your friends. And essentially what that means is you all can play individually, and then once one person in the link starts a mission, it will then automatically prompt your friends, if they want to join. And if they can, to join. So getting it to that point took like hours of figuring that out. So it's definitely like not easy to understand, but having understood it a little bit, not fully, I think it is an interesting system for that reason. Because when we were linked, for instance, Ben would start a quest. It would come up on my screen. Maybe I'm in the middle of something and I don't want to quit out of it right then. I can either, maybe I'm just fucking around in the world, just collecting, mining crops or, something like that, or fishing. In that case, I would join. But so that being said, I don't want to give it too much props because you're absolutely correct, Dave. It is not easy to understand, and I can't imagine how much of a hellish experience on PC, having played this and clicking around all these menus a million times to try and figure out what it was. Someone on a console probably had to look up a fucking video. Like, I bet there's a video, and like the first couple searches on YouTube probably have a lot of fucking views right now to try and figure out what the fuck is going on. But go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, so I don't want to beat that horse because again, once you figure it out, it is superior playing with friends, and you're going to need to play with a lot of friends when you get further into the game and into the end game. So, yeah, once you figure it out, I guess it's worth it. Technically, this game has some issues. There are muddy textures everywhere. If you look too closely, it looks like an older game than it actually is. I'm playing on PS5, just the vanilla PS5, and there's quite a few frame rate issues, both in the open world and in cutscenes, and which sucks because from an art direction standpoint, this is one of the best looking Monster Hunter game I've ever played. Like the environments are so interesting, and the way they change with the changing weather and the foliage and all that kind of stuff. Like it's a very pretty game to look at, but there are just some areas where when you look a little bit too close, it gets pretty ugly. So I think those. I think
it was Dustin that said last night, "How does this game look amazing and terrible at the same time?"
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, it's bit of a mixed bag there, but again, just as I said off the top, these aren't things that really are impactful enough to take away from the fact that I'm playing a really, really fun Monster Hunter game. I'm around 10 hours in, and I haven't seen a monster I recognize yet. I don't know if they're all new to the franchise, but they're all new to me, and I played Worlds and Rise, so and there's some minor monsters that are actually been really cool. Minor spoiler alert, there's like this spider that you fight in like this ice cave, and he's got some really, really cool attacks. So yeah, I think, you know, this is the kind of game that just the way it's designed, you want to beeline towards the end and start grinding out weapons. But I mean, weapons and armor, but take your time because the story is actually pretty cool. And I really like the characters. There's Alma, who's your quest giver. And, you know, I think they took some feedback from World, which is that, you know, the handler was really fucking annoying. Alma kind of takes a back seat and she's a little bit more subdued. Olivia, who's the one of the hunters, she's fucking badass. I love watching her in the cutscene. She's so cool. Gemma, whatever her name is, she's an excellent blacksmith. I love watching her work. You know, I just stand there at the blacksmith table for, you know, hours on end, and it's great to see.
What else can I upgrade? I'm not even using this, but I think it needs some work.
Sorry, you're out of money. So yeah, I mean, overall, I'm having a great time with it. I'll step aside for Brandon now, though, because I know you're probably a lot further than me.
Well, before you jump in, Brandon, I just wanted to say, Dave, I agree about the characters. I like the characters, but I think the story sucks in general.
Yeah,
I know that's a weird statement to make, that the characters are cool, but the story sucks. But every time there's a cutscene, I'm just like, I don't care about this. But I like the characters and little interactions and side conversations you have. But it could just be just a personal thing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you generally, Ben. I think the characters seem endearing and nice, and I enjoyed them maybe a little bit more than I did with the characters in World. But the overarching story, aside from the plot at large, like the largest, if you stepped away and got the cliff notes of the plot, everything else that's smaller subnotes, I don't fucking, like, I think it's really fucking boring. And I don't know if it's just because I just want to be fighting monsters or what, and I'm not like the biggest story guy, I'll say it. It's kind of a known thing. But yeah, they also changed some stuff about this game. I'm about 20 hours in now, and I played for about 10 or 11 hours on launch day, which was really fun. I hadn't played that much games straight in a while. I don't even think I left my desk when I ate, but
did you pee at your desk?
I mean, no.
Oh.
No, but it's good. I think that I'm really, really disappointed with the performance. I think that having by all accounts, didn't we get some metrics that like even most people have below a 30 series card, or like
I think the most popular card is like a 3060 now or something.
Yeah, so like I have a 3080, right? And like the rest of my build, affects the game, but I have a decent build that runs everything pretty well. And I'm lucky to, I just had to make some concessions. I'm now playing on medium with balance DLSS, and I'm not super happy with the way it looks, but that's my only hope for getting an even close to 60 frames per second performance. Often dipping into the 50s, but on high, I was dipping into the 40s, and it was just kind of jarring and unfortunate. So, people that have maybe 3090s, people that have 40 series cards, I've heard anecdotal evidence that they've had a lot less problems than I have. But as someone with a 30 series card, even a higher tier 30 series card, I have been upset with the optimization. So that kind of sucks.
I'll chime in there just to give a different perspective. I know I have a really beefy computer. I have a 4080 Super. I have a 7800 X3D. I have a 64 gig of RAM for some reason. And for me, I have everything on high, including ray tracing. I'm playing at 1440, and I have it capped at 144, and I'm barely ever seeing anything below 100. The problem is in that like 110 to 125 range, it's not a stable frame rate, whatever it is. It's constantly jumping around. So it makes it kind of, I mean, I'm usually sticking up higher to closer to 144, but it's jumping around so much that it is a little bit, it kind of takes, I'm kind of like, I wish it were just 60, but steady.
Yeah.
Which I could do. I could bump it down there, but
Yeah.
it's performing decently on the highest settings for me, but I'm still noticing in some areas it's not as optimized as others very clearly.
Yeah. Yeah. And it can get pretty bad when there's other players, even in the hub world. So, to answer your question, at Edward Walton, I have a 12th gen i7 12700 KF. So, nothing like super old. I think it might be a year or two old most. But yeah, I was really disappointed with that. I also am disappointed to see that they took out some of my favorite features. In Worlds, you were able to have your own room, and were able to collect animals in your net, and they not only would give you research points, but you could then display them and customize your room accordingly. I found that to be an amazing feature. I spent many hours collecting creatures specifically for that reason, and I feel like that's kind of been omitted altogether. And yeah, that just kind of sucks. You can customize your camps, but it's not quite the same. So, I also think that somehow this game has too much hand holding in some ways and not enough hand holdings in others. I had to look up how to effectively use a weapon that I didn't ever use before, the horn. In fact, today I filled out a survey they put out, Capcom officially, to kind of, give some of my feedback, which is good, which I don't often do. And I noted a lot of the things I'm saying here. So, yeah, I mean, overall, it's an amazing experience. It's definitely more Monster Hunter. Aside from the convoluted multiplayer, the lackluster performance, and the somewhat boring occasionally story bits, everything else about it's great. I mean, I didn't come to this game to watch poorly animated. They're animated for Japanese, right? Like, they're animated for Japanese. So I'm not like picking them apart too much. But I'm here for the monsters, and it's absolutely giving me that. Some of the monsters I fought, specifically one that I fought that's like an alpha predator in the region that I'm in now. I think you know which one I'm talking about, Ben. We talked about it when we were playing last night. I bet you
Is
probably
it hot?
Very
Yeah.
and squirmy. But yeah, it's great, man. I love it. I love it. I should have wrote down my thoughts because I was thinking about this earlier. What the fuck I was going to say, Ben? What are your thoughts generally? I'm going to keep thinking about it, but there was other stuff that I thought about it. But I wanted to kind of see your take as someone who is a little bit fresher to the series. Period.
Yeah. Yeah. I played a little bit of this game's predecessor.
Rise.
No, I played a very little bit of Rise. World. Thank you. I knew it was a W. I just couldn't say the word. I played a little bit of it. I say a little bit of it, like 30, 35 hours, something like that. And enjoyed it, but was very lost the whole time. And in this game, I feel like I have a little bit different perspective because So World, let me back up. World, I mostly only played with like other people who were already way further in the game than I was. And so I was constantly lost because they were so far ahead and unable to remember like how they did this or that at the beginning of the game. And it didn't prompt you. With this game, it is pretty handholdy in certain areas, but I'm appreciating it because I need it, frankly. What I will say is there's things that the game never tells you. Like, um, I can't even think of an example, but like there was something I found out about. I was like, the game never prompted me, told me that, whatever. You just have to know. The game doesn't ever tell you, you can press triangle while you're in your tent and just automatically refill the things you have. The game doesn't tell you that when you're on your secret, whatever, however you say it, the little thing you ride around on, that if you press left pad, you have a different set of pockets and that the animal carries around and stuff for you. Um, and those are just very practical things. There's also like actually need to know stuff. It barely tells you uh, how to sharpen your weapons and stuff like that in between battles. So
Well, dude, I wanna give one of mine that I learned from a video that I feel like is super important. With the horn, you play a set of notes, right? And then you hold your equivalent of R2 to then play those notes. I didn't realize that you could do what's called an encore, which means you don't have to re-enter those notes a second time to get the better version of the buff. You just have to press R2 at the right time. So I was like doubling my button inputs because I didn't understand that I could easily play the melody again back to back. Like that's huge. That's
yeah.
quite literally doubles the amount of inputs that I save myself from watching a video on it.
Edward Walton gave us our first actually of the night and says the game does tell you about the pockets. It may, Edward. I can tell you this for a fact that I have been very, very diligent about reading tutorials because I know in the first game I didn't, and I was like 10 hours in and still lost, even on how to like do anything. And I say the first game, the last game I played. In this game, it was like 6 hours, and I accidentally hit left D-pad when I was on it, and it popped up the menu. And I was like, oh, where did that come from? Because the game didn't tell me about it. Now, maybe it tells you that later, or it's like built into a side quest I didn't do, or something like that. But like, I don't know, it's just an example of a very simple function that I just accidentally found. And it's not even like on the top of the screen prompting you. If you press left D-pad, you'll open it. Like it just happened.
Yeah.
So yeah. Um,
Something else that's cool about this game that I really appreciated. Going in, I wasn't sure if I was going to play a male or a female character, because of the armor sets. Occasionally, I would look up the armor set for the male characters on Monster Hunter Worlds and say, wow, that looks so much cooler than the female set, or vice versa. In this game, I don't have to choose because you could put either set on either, and you can mix and match, which is actually fun. So you kind of get two sets per monster almost because they are slightly different. So I really appreciated that about it. It's little things like that that I think are really cool. I made a joke when we were struggling with multiplayer that I was looking forward to the seamless co-op mod for this, like in Elden Ring. But yeah, man, this game's really cool. I'm super glad to be back being a hammer boy, and the horn is surprisingly deep now that I actually understand what the fuck I'm doing. So I found it to be mostly like almost too easy. I will say in the past maybe like 5 hours though, I've started to get into some more difficult things, and that's really, Dave, you have some really good things to look forward to. I'm really excited for you, specifically
well,
you, Dave.
since you mentioned the hammer, let's talk about our weapons. Now, you not only get to pick what weapon you want to use, you get two weapons,
Yes.
primary and secondary. Dave, what weapons are you rocking?
I'm using the switch axe. I've been using the switch axe for about 90% of my playtime. I do carry an insect glaive with me, and as I've said before, I think that's a really good balance having those two. But I'm having a hard time putting down the switch axe because it's such a cool weapon. But I do expect things are going to get harder, and I'm going to need to change up my playstyle a little bit for some monsters. So Yeah, I'm looking forward to putting a little bit more time into the insect glaive.
The insect glaive, from everything I've heard about it, sucks to deal with.
It's just like
Like,
the
it's a great
mechanics are
weapon, but it
difficult.
sucks to deal with. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you harvest all three of your kinsect things, and your attacks are so much different to a point where you will not want to attack without all three harvests. So I just don't like having to mess around with harvesting because you have to aim your kinsect and shoot it at like the head, the hindquarters, and like the body or something to get all three. And I find that initial like getting all your harvest really annoying. But I said that in the Discord, and a couple of people said there's a few ways they've added to make it a little bit more easy. So I just need to put some time to research. But the point is I'm having so much fun with the axe, so I don't want to do that yet.
But yeah, so as mentioned, Hammer, bro, love it. Love just breaking the piss out of monster
You like
parts
to
off
bonk.
of dudes. Dude, I love to bonk. And I also pipe down the boys with the pipe. I'm piping dudes. All day be piping dudes. Ben.
Charge blade for my secondary typically. I love it because it's got a very fast attack, and then it's got a little bit slower attack as well with a different setup. It turns into a chainsaw at certain points, which is a lot of fun. And then the dual blades. Not the most effective all the time, but once you start building up those combos really well, it's the most fun in my opinion. Now I haven't tried every weapon, so I can't say for sure it's the most fun, but I love it. I love that I can also, I feel like I'm dodging a lot more than I would be if I were using heavier weapons that do more damage in fairness at once, but you take a lot more as well. Also, like 8 or 9 hours in, I upgraded my armor for the first time. And I realized I wasn't dying nearly as quickly. So that was fun.
One thing I want to add, and I don't know if this comes later in the game, but if it doesn't, the lack of a proper gathering hub kind of sucks. Yeah, Brandon, Edward, I don't know if that's something that comes later, but I know when Iceborne came out, like there was the vanilla gathering hub, and then Iceborne came out, and there was like a new gathering hub. So I've heard of this as a piece of feedback. So if there isn't actually a proper gathering hub, then I assume it will come with one of the major updates. But that kind
Also, the music in World's Hub so much better. I still think about it. Dun 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 dun. Dude, I still think about it, man. I miss it just a little bit. I wonder if in the tent how you could change the music. I didn't even check and see if that's an option. It would be amazing if it is.
So yeah, I realize that the base camps are gathering hubs, but I'm talking about one central streamlined
Yeah.
gathering hub. I don't like that there isn't that, because there was so much personality and stuff to kind of interact with, and you got used to it. Like I knew that this person was here and this person was here and this person's here. Now every base camp I have to figure out where everybody is.
Yeah.
It's kind of annoying. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like when I'm in the forest, they're like, you can set up a tent here. And I'm like, I don't want to. I know there's
Yeah,
probably an advantage to doing it, but I just don't.
Yeah, only for like, let's say it's one of the larger maps or it's hard to get to, then you could like fast travel to it and you don't have to ride your. But at the same rate, I mean, you could just have it auto run, so it's not really a difficult thing either way. But
The auto run is great about 90% of the time. And then the other 10% of the time, you're like, I'm literally headed the opposite direction. Why is this happening?
It's weird though. Like I don't know if I've ever had a game that I had so many substantial gripes with, but I also didn't want to stop playing.
Yeah.
I've thought about it all day, literally all day, every day, and I just want to get done with the story.
Brandon, we did play something else this week. We played 10 hours of Civ 6 at Dustin's house.
Dude, literally, so Friday, I played 10 or 11 hours of Monster Hunter. Saturday, I didn't play any games. And then Sunday, I played 10 hours of Civ. So in 3 days, I
I
played
said
about...
Civ 6, Civ 7.
In 3 days, I played about 24 hours of video games in a fucking weekend. And that was like a new high for me for 3 days, maybe. So
Yeah. There's a lot of games.
I was so sore. My knees were killing me. after that sip party.
All right, boys. Anything else to talk about with Monster Hunter or anything else you maybe been playing?
You're not gonna talk about Repo.
I forgot about Repo. You talk about it.
I've not played it.
I know because you're a bitch. Gotcha.
I went to bed. I'm
tricked
sorry.
you into it. Repo R.E.P. You get the point. Is a what's that game called, Brandon? That kind of started the genre.
It's a lethal light.
A lethal light or a lethal like? Meaning it's somewhat like Lethal Company. If you remember how Lethal Company worked, anybody who was around during when we were playing that or played it yourself, you go in to this facility. There's different levels. This is how this game works, by the way, this repo. You go into different facilities. You get different treasures that are worth different amounts of money. You take them out, and whenever you leave, you get the amount of money that you collected, and you can buy upgrades, whether that's for your character being speed or stamina or health or whatever, or whether you want to buy weapons to use against the thing I didn't mention, which is monsters. Every different level has a different monster or multiple different monsters. They're somewhat randomly generated, I believe, and they can be defeated in different ways. It's one of those games where, like, literally, if you were just playing the game and all hanging out in Discord and talking, it wouldn't be as good. The thing that makes these kinds of games so good is that the voices are like they would be kind of in real life, where you're only able to hear people within a certain proximity of you or at a certain volume. And of course, different monsters react to different volume levels and everything. It's only like $8, and it's pretty low lift, so most computers could probably run it, honestly. But it is a really fun time for you and up to 5 of your friends. But yeah, you just run in different facilities, collect treasure, lots of stupid fun stuff to be had. Like, for instance, your characters are these little guys that are like cylindrical kind of, but they have their head kind of, I don't know, swivels for the people who are listening. It just like almost like a half a Pac-Man.
Well, dude, it's like the
and so
it's like the Canadians in South Park.
it's like the Canadians in South Park. Yep, a little bit. Dave, you got an itch there? Something? It also you have a cool, interesting mechanic where you can like squat and your legs like suck up into your body, and you're just like I don't even know how to describe it, but you have to watch it to look at it to see it. And it makes it really fun and has some cool. With a lot of games, you just pick stuff up and it's attached to you. With this game, you actually use like I don't know if you have like something like magnetic or I don't know, but when you pick things up, you're not really holding them. They're just kind of out in front of you with the force, I guess you could say. And it's physics based. So when you turn left and right, the thing like kind of lags behind and swings around. You can move it in and out further away from your body. So that creates a lot of opportunity to destroy things and lose the value of them before you move on to the next thing that you're going to pick up. As you progress throughout levels, different amount, like you have a quota you have to meet, but in some levels you have to meet that quota twice or 3 times or 4 times or 5 times. And so there's different places where you have to drop stuff off. So it's a little more, adds some more difficulty in the further levels that you progress to. So we haven't beat it yet, but eventually we probably will, unless we get tired of it. But like I said, it's like $8. Very, very well reviewed on Steam and a lot of fun. And I'm sure they're going to keep adding stuff. It's in early access. The monsters that are in there are really cool. They all have like distinct things. Like one of them, you just can't look at it. It won't hurt you if you don't look at it. But if you look at it, it will come after you. Another one is it's this like hunter guy. He's blind and he can't see you. So you could be right in front of him. He won't know you're there. But he does hear you very well, and he will just blindly fire in your general direction if he hears you. On top of that, because he can't see, he falls down steps. So sometimes that can be a strategic maneuver to get him near steps if you want to. So, but there's a lot involved with that game, and none of it really matters except for it's just stupid fun with your friends. That's really the thing. And that is it.
That's it.
That is it. Don't forget you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/handsomephantom. We appreciate your support there. And you can join us on Discord at handsomephantom.com/discord. Thanks everybody for hanging out. We appreciate it. And we will see you next week. Goodbye.